Hello and welcome to our podcast. Everyone, I'm Emma, and here with me is Max.
Hey there! Today we're diving into one of the most important skills you need to improve in English listening. And we're excited to share some useful tips that can help you instantly boost your listening skills. So, whether you're an intermediate learner or just starting out, there's something here for you.
Exactly. You know, Max, a lot of people struggle with listening. They say things like, I can read English well, I can write, but listening, that's so hard.
Yeah, it's really common. Listening can feel tough because it's not just about understanding each word. It's about getting the full idea, the flow, and even the emotions behind what's being said.
Right, so let's start with one of the first things that can make a big difference knowing why you're listening. This might sound obvious, but it really matters. Ask yourself, why am I listening to this? Are you listening to learn something new? Or maybe you want to hear a specific accent or practice with everyday conversation.
Absolutely, that's a great point. When you know your purpose, you're more focused, and that helps you remember what you hear. For example, if you're watching a movie, think about how people actually talk, how they use tone, or maybe even the expressions they use.
Yes, and speaking of movies and TV shows, they're some of the best tools to improve listening. You get to hear real-life language, how people actually speak, and it's a fun way to practice. But don't forget that it's okay to start with easier material, like children's shows or short videos with subtitles. No need to jump straight to something difficult.
And a good tip is to try to focus on short clips first instead of long episodes or movies. Let's say you're watching a 5-minute video. Try to listen without reading subtitles at first, and then listen again with the subtitles to catch what you missed. It's all about building up your confidence and training your ear.
Exactly. And if there's a word you don't understand, don't worry too much about it. Try to guess from the context. Sometimes you can understand the whole sentence, even if one word is new.
That's true. Native speakers don't always understand every word either. But they still understand the meaning, so practice letting yourself understand the main idea and you'll find it gets easier.
Yes, that's so true. Another thing that can help a lot is listening to English every day, even if it's only for a short time. Make it a habit. Listen while you're cooking, walking, or even just relaxing. This way, your brain gets used to the sounds of English.
And don't forget about different accents. Try listening to various English accents like British, American, Australian. It might be challenging at first, but it really expands your listening skills. The more accents you hear, the easier it becomes to understand anyone speaking English.
Good point, Max. Also, when you're listening, try not to worry about translating everything in your head. Translating can actually slow you down because you're thinking into languages. Focus on thinking directly in English as much as possible.
Yes, and if you find a video or audio that you like, listen to it several times. The first time might be hard, but with each listen, it gets easier and you start to notice new things.
That's a really good idea. Listening multiple times can help you catch the little details, like how certain words are pronounced or how sentences are structured.
So, to summarize this part, remember these key points, know your purpose for listening, start with simple materials, listen regularly, and don't worry about translating every word. These steps can really help you boost your listening skills quickly.
Absolutely. We've shared a lot of ideas so far, and there's more to come.
All right, so let's dive even deeper into ways to make listening easier and, honestly, more enjoyable. Emma and I were just talking about some specific techniques to help you stay active while listening, and trust me, they're simple but very effective.
Yes, active listening is a game changer. It's not just hearing the words but engaging with them. Think of it as putting your listening skills to work like a detective. You're noticing things, connecting ideas, and, most importantly, staying interested.
Exactly, and one way to stay active is to keep asking yourself little questions while listening. For example, let's say you're listening to a podcast about cooking. As you listen, ask yourself things like, what's the main ingredient they're using? Or what's the cooking method? These questions keep your brain engaged and they help you stay focused.
Yes, that's a great technique. Another way to stay active is by taking small notes while you listen. This doesn't have to be anything big, just write down a few keywords or ideas. Maybe there's a new word you hear, or something interesting that stands out to you. Writing things down helps you remember better and keeps your mind involved in the process.
Good point. And if you're listening to something longer, like an audiobook or a lecture, try to break it down into sections. Maybe listen to one part, then pause and think about what you just heard. Summarize it to yourself in a sentence or two. This helps you process the information and keeps you from feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, and that's especially helpful if the speaker is talking quickly or if there's a lot of new information. Taking breaks to summarize lets you go over what you understood so far. And you don't have to catch every single word to get the main point.
Another technique that's really useful is called shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to someone speaking and try to repeat what they're saying right after you hear it. It's like following along with their rhythm, their intonation, and even their pauses. It sounds a bit tricky, but it really improves your listening and speaking at the same time.
Yes, and shadowing can be a lot of fun. You can start with something simple, like a short phrase or sentence. It doesn't have to be perfect, just try to copy the way the person sounds. This helps you feel the language more naturally, and it even improves your pronunciation without you realizing it.
And if you find it hard to keep up, don't worry. You can pause the audio after each sentence and then try to repeat. Over time, you'll be able to shadow along with longer and faster sentences.
Right, and here's another tip. While you're listening, try to focus on keywords. Every sentence usually has one or two important words that give the main idea. If you can catch these keywords, you can understand most of the meaning, even if you miss some smaller words in between.
That's so true. For example, if you're listening to a sentence like, "The weather in London is usually rainy," you can just focus on weather, London, and rainy. Even if you miss usually, you still get the main point.
Yes, and this technique is great because, over time, you'll notice that your brain starts to automatically catch these keywords. You'll find that you understand more with less effort.
Exactly, and here's something else that really helps practicing with different types of content. Maybe today you listen to a short story, and tomorrow you listen to a news report. Different types of content have different vocabularies, tones, and speeds, so it's great for building a well-rounded listening ability.
And it keeps things interesting. One day, try listening to a casual conversation, and the next, try something more formal. You'll get used to the range of English sounds, and you'll be ready for anything.
Good point, and let's talk about confidence, too. One reason people struggle with listening is that they don't feel confident. They think, what if I don't understand? Or what if I miss something important? But here's the truth, you don't have to understand every word to understand the message.
That's right. And sometimes, it's okay to tell yourself, I'm going to miss some words. And that's okay. Instead of trying to catch every detail, aim for the big picture. Ask yourself, what's the main idea? This way, you're focusing on the meaning, not the words.
Yes, and confidence grows with practice. The more you listen, the easier it becomes. You'll start to notice patterns, like certain phrases that are repeated often or the way questions are asked. Little by little, listening gets easier and even feels natural.
And remember, it's okay if listening feels hard at first. It's a skill that you can improve with time and practice. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. If you understood a few sentences today, that's a win.
Absolutely. It's all about enjoying the process and not being too hard on yourself. We're all learning, and even native speakers sometimes miss words or phrases, so go easy on yourself and have fun with it.
Yes, having fun is so important. When you find enjoyment in listening, it stops feeling like a chore, and you're more likely to keep practicing.
Exactly, and just to wrap up, focus on active listening, practice with different types of content, try shadowing, and most importantly, build your confidence. Listening is a journey, and every little bit helps.
Yes, well said, Max. We've covered a lot here, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to put these tips into action.
All right, so now that we've talked about different techniques, let's dive into building some solid habits for listening. Because, just learning these techniques isn't enough. Making them part of your routine is what will really help you see progress.
Yes, building a habit is like making a promise to yourself. If you want to improve your listening skills, try setting aside a bit of time every day, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes at first. The key is consistency.
Absolutely. Emma, consistency really is the secret. Think about it this way: if you listen to English for a few minutes every day, over time that adds up to hours of practice. And with each session, you're training your brain to understand more and more.
Exactly. And to make it more motivating, I always suggest setting small, realistic goals. You could start by saying, I'll listen to a 5-minute podcast today, or I'll watch a short English video without subtitles. Achieving these small goals can give you a big boost of confidence.
Yes, and as you get more comfortable, you can slowly increase the time. So maybe after a week or two, you're listening for 10 minutes, then 15. Before you know it, listening to English becomes a part of your day, like brushing your teeth.
And to keep things interesting, you could create a playlist of different types of content. For example, add in some music, a bit of news, maybe a podcast, or even a fun story. Having a mix keeps it exciting and also challenges you in different ways.
That's a great idea. Plus, listening to different types of content exposes you to a range of vocabulary and speaking styles. You might hear slang in a podcast or more formal language in the news. All of this helps you get a well-rounded understanding of the language.
And don't forget, you don't have to understand everything right away. Sometimes, just being able to follow along with the main ideas is enough. Over time, you'll notice that your understanding improves, even if it feels slow at first.
Definitely, and another thing that can help is creating a bit of structure around your listening. For example, maybe you listen to an English podcast every morning with your coffee, or you watch a short video every night before bed. This way, it becomes a natural part of your daily routine.
Yes, that's such a good idea, Max. And to add to that, I'd say it's really helpful to use materials you genuinely enjoy. Find topics you're interested in, whether that's cooking, travel, or even science. If you enjoy what you're listening to, it won't feel like studying.
Exactly, Emma. When you're interested in the topic, you're much more likely to stick people with it. And don't forget, even things like listening to music in English can help. Try to listen carefully to the lyrics and understand the story or the emotion behind the song.
Yes, music is such a fun way to learn. Sometimes, lyrics have a lot of slang or casual phrases that people use in real life. And because songs repeat certain phrases, it helps you remember new words without even realizing it.
Good point. And here's another tip: don't be afraid to re-listen to things. Listening to the same podcast or watching the same video a few times can be very helpful. Each time, you'll notice new words or understand parts that might have been confusing the first time around.
Right, and repetition really does help you catch those details. Plus, every time you listen, you're training your brain to understand the language a little faster.
Now, let's talk about resources. There are so many great ones out there, like language learning apps, YouTube channels, and podcasts just like this one. Many of these resources are designed specifically for English learners, so they're easy to follow and packed with useful language.
Absolutely, Max. Apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or even specific podcasts for English learners are fantastic. And YouTube has loads of content that's perfect for practicing. Some channels offer content with both subtitles and without, so you can choose what suits you best.
Yes, and if you're interested in improving your listening for specific situations like business or travel, there are videos and podcasts focused on that too. For example, business English videos can help you get used to more formal language, while travel videos might teach you practical phrases.
Another great resource is audiobooks. You can listen to them at your own pace, and there are so many options: fiction, nonfiction, even children's books, which are a fantastic way to start if you're at an elementary level.
Exactly, and audiobooks are nice because they allow you to focus on the voice without any visual distractions. You can imagine the story as you listen, which also makes it more engaging.
Right, and if you're using audiobooks, try to find ones with text so you can read along if you want. This is great for matching spoken and written words, which can help with pronunciation and comprehension.
And, of course, practicing with a friend or language partner is also helpful. You could both listen to the same podcast or watch the same video and then talk about it. This way, you're improving both your listening and speaking skills.
Yes, and you can even share any new words or phrases you learned with each other. It's a great way to learn in a more interactive way. Plus, explaining something you've heard is a great way to check your understanding.
Absolutely. So, to wrap it all up, think about setting small, achievable goals for listening practice, make listening a daily habit, find content that you enjoy, and don't be afraid to repeat materials. All of these tips will help you build confidence and make listening in English easier and more enjoyable.
And remember, listening is a skill that grows with time. The more you expose yourself to the sounds, words, and rhythm of English, the faster you'll see progress. So stick with it and have fun along the way.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We hope these tips help you feel more confident with your listening skills. And if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share it with your family and friends. We'll be back with more tips soon, so stay tuned.
Thanks, everyone. Happy listening, and we'll see you next time.